It turns out I'm an absolute idiot. I've been commenting this entire time to a muted mic. I do apologize. I'll have to quickly go over the key points for the draft. I was talking about the issue with Sven being picked up due to the fact that I've got a Death Prophet. You never want to pick up a melee carry up against a hero like a Death Prophet, since all she has to do is pop Exorcism. If she has a Yule Scepter, pop the Yule Scepter when you get close to her, and you'll eat all the spirit damage. I was talking about how the IO and the Treant Protector, that's a very powerful aggressive dual lane that's utilized by teams such as Alliance, just because the Treant Protector with boots, as well as the IO Tether, can just run up to you, Leech Seed you. He's receiving double heal from the Leech Seeds. One's going to him, one's going to the IO, and the IO's transferring it through the Tether. And then so you then have the ability to prevent them from split pushing by using the living armor. So you force them to fighting 5v5, and while they're doing that, Nature's Prophet split pushes, or he comes in the very end. You've got the very potent combination with the IO Sven. And the biggest drawback to that is there's a Faceless Void. You could drop a Chronosphere and go man fight the Sven. So unless Sven gets significantly farmed, there's the right conditions for him, he can very easily fall apart. Since Sven is a hero that can be easily kited and is very squishy for a melee carry, he's got fairly low armor. He does get some armor from the Warcry, but if he's caught in the Chronosphere and he dies before anything happens, then all the golden investment you've spent on this Sven is effectively wasted. Against a hero like especially with the Bristleback pickup, it means that he has to pick up a BKB, and even if he picks up a BKB, he still has to be very careful. If he goes for a Mask of Madness, for instance, he's going to be eating a lot of damage, especially with the fact that he can't go for any kind of lifesteal, since if Ancient Apparition hits him with the Ice Blast, it negates all of his regen and all of his sustain. Sven is a hero that is heavily dependent on either getting huge crits to be able to kill people or be able to sustain people through utilizing the Mask of Madness. So it means that the Sven pickup, the reason why it'd be picked up in this case is just because it provides a reliable stun in the aggressive train lane. But against the matchup of a Faceless Void, as well as a Death Prophet and a Witch Doctor, who could also ward off the Sven by dropping the Death Ward, probably would have been much safer and much more reliable if you went for a carry such as the Luna. But that being said, the disadvantage of picking up a carry like the Luna is since you have a Wisp, you need to pick a carry that synergizes with the Wisp. So instead of the Chaos Knight, they chose to opt for the Sven. So just going to quickly introduce the players from both teams. I walk mid once again over in the Death Prophet. The understudy carry player for the team going to be playing the Faceless Void. Nado Squirrel going to be the 5 position Ancient Apparition. Whistlebee, the standard for the team, going to be the 4 position Witch Doctor. And it looks like they're deciding to Clash Try Be Try. And Crapback going to be the safe lane, the off lane Bristleback, but he's rotating over to the safe lane, so deciding to avoid their tri lane, or try to Clash Try Be Try. But it looks like the players over from SSCT have the exact same thing in mind. Non-long going to be the 5 position Treant Protector. Solo, the carry position, 1 position Farmer as the Sven. Lucky Shots, the 4 position IO. NZ Rain, once again the offlane player over the Nature's Prophet. And KW7142 on the signature puck, he was able to play a fantastic puck game in game number 1, and sorry, in game number 2. Let's see if he can keep it up for game number 3. He should have a fairly easy lane up against the Death Prophet, just because Death Prophet's Crypt Swarm has a fairly slow travel time. It's very easy to predict and to phase shift out of, and if Death Prophet can't rely on the phase shift damage, very easy to be able to beat her in terms of last hits, just because her animation and projectile speed is fairly slow. Aggressive ward being placed, but looks like both teams decided to try to Clash Try Be Try, and as a result wind up avoiding the other team's tri lane. In this case, Nature's Prophet's at a significant disadvantage, just because he doesn't have the long lane where the creep wave actually clashes closer to his tower. So the creep wave is actually going to push up closer to his to the enemy tower. In this case, it's a lot more exposed. There's always a path that they can cut through, and the Faceless Void Time Walk can snare them down. Looks like it's going to be a quick pause. Whereas in the bottom lane, Bristleback, he's going to be having a much easier time, even though they can dive the tower, because they're so close to him. They have TP rotations come in, they can at least try to turn around and go for kills. They actually chose to start with a Quelling Blade, which is quite surprising. I guess he thought he would be going 1v1 up against Nature's Prophet, in which case the Quelling Blade would help out a lot in dealing damage. But Treant Protector already starting with the boots, not messing around at all. Io looks like he's stuck on buying all the wards and support items for his team, actually choosing to go for a Solar Ring, a bit surprising. And Solo trying to get as much farm as possible. Over the mid lane, actually looks like Death Prophet's doing okay so far. He's able to catch him out with the Crypt Swarm before he could phase shift. Trying to do what he can to get some last hits, but the superior projectile speed and animation of Puck makes it easier to last hit. Well, that being said, looks like both players are having a bit of a difficult time. I'm missing a few right clicks here and there. They need to play a lot more aggressively up against this Nature's Prophet. Since it turns out he didn't even go for boots this time, so he's going for a very greedy Nature's Prophet build. This is usually something you see when the Nature's Prophet is jungling. You don't really necessarily need the Bassy Ring if you're going to be in lane. And so they need to be either zoning out the Nature's Prophet or trying to go for a kill attempt on him. The support players need to be playing a lot more aggressively. There we go, Chilling Touch over in the Ancient Apparition. NZ Rain has to back out, and once again he's been starved of EXP. Whereas over in the bottom lane, Crap Pack, he's playing fairly safe right now. The support heroes aren't playing as aggressively as they'd like, just because they know they're respecting the power of the Bristleback on the off chance that Bristleback was able to get a kill. Just because Bristleback's a fantastic counter pick to the Io, since Io has 0 armor. If Io's tethering the tree and they're leading a charge onto the Bristleback, and Bristleback's constantly getting Quill Spray stacks off, they could probably kill the Wisp before they are able to kill the Bristleback, or at least get him very low so they don't have the option of diving. That being said, the regen from the Leech Seed could be enough, so Lucky Shot's doing the best they can to try to zone out Crap Pack. He's playing a very safe, immediately 1 point up in the Bristleback, wants to max out the Quill Spray, probably going to choose to forego an early point in the Nasal Goo for another point over in the Bristleback passive, just to keep himself alive. In the mid lane, we see Puck actually breaking even with the Death Prophet, even though he has dodged the looks like he actually copped that Cryptstorm to the face, so even though he does have the phase shift, has actually missed a few, so hasn't been able to fully utilize the defensive capabilities of his hero, so as a result, he's eating a fair few Cryptstorms to the face, which reduces HP pool, also means that the Death Prophet can get last hits uncontested. Over in the top lane, looks like they're actually counteracting the pull. And the Living Armor going to make it very difficult to dive on the Nature's Prophet, even though he hasn't actually received all too much, but the creep wave is pushed out now. And so he's going to probably be able to pick up, get very close to a level 2 off the back of that. Unless if they're able to deny, there we go. With that one more creep, yeah, he's going to hit level 2. So Undead Rain doing the best that he can with the circumstances at his disposal. Bristleback on the other hand, a bit far forward, he's playing a lot more aggressively than he should. The tri-lane for Team SSCT, they should be playing a lot more aggressively, especially considering the fact they have such a powerful aggressive duo, but I guess they are respecting the power of the Bristleback. 2 points up in the Quill Spray, actually, there we go. Stun lands on Crap Pack, he could be taking a fall, this could be first blood right now. Quill Spray number 1, Leech Seed turning around on his back, double heal coming out from him though. Tether finally lands, a few more right clicks, Living Armor, actually they can't pick a lot of damage, they didn't synergize, and then that chain to stuns, probably forced to use another Storm Bolt, that's going to be first blood, there's no way he can escape from that. Good investment from the Sven, actually chose to buy a magic stick, so he's going to use that to ensure that he always has enough mana to be able to throw out that secondary stun. Soldering up on the Io. Bit surprising considering the fact that Io doesn't necessarily need to go through all that much mana. The Spirits is the only ability, that mana intense ability they're going to use. But I guess the regeneration it provides you are transferring along. Interesting that Io chose not to go for the bottle. I guess he assumed that the Puck would be going for the bottle. And rightly so. Phase shifts out, last hit. Right click coming out from him. Living Armor going to make Puck especially difficult to dislodge from the lane. But Death Prophet, Iowa doing a lot better this time around over in the Death Prophet, despite Puck having the edge with the defense capability of the phase shift as well as the superior attack animation. Death Prophet still able to CS very well just by spamming out the Crypt Swarm, which has maintained rune control, that regeneration rune. Makes it very difficult for the Puck to be able to try to contest last hits with us, since he's always being forced to use the phase shift defensively. To block the Crypt Swarm or to block a right click, he can't choose to block both. So if he could fake out the Puck, force him to blow his phase shift, he could then Crypt Swarm in the face. Crap Pack only chose to go for a point over in the Nasal Goo. Very surprising considering the fact that you usually don't want to go for a point in the Nasal Goo early on. Maybe you want to pick up a point at level 7, level 8. But not during the laning phase, just because the extra damage reduction helps out, and you're not going to be turning around to throw out your goo. You want them to hit your back the whole time so you can get that one more Quill Spray proc off. But that being said, if the supports ever rotate away, he can go for a solo kill up on solo, especially considering he's about to hit level 5. And the top lane, it looks like the supports have completely left NZ Ren alone. So while he had a pretty bad first minute and a half, ever since the supports have rotated and ever since they're able to secure the kill on the offlane of the TDT, he's able to recover quite nicely. So he's got a point up and Sprout in case they do decide to dive him, so they're going to be eating a lot of tower damage in return. Witch Doctor going for the very aggressive build. Probably going to be choosing to max out the Paralyzing Cast or the Malediction. Either option is quite powerful. Threw out the stun prematurely, nothing to bounce to. In the mid lane, it actually looks like Puck is rotated with a haste rune. But while he's spending all that time rotating, I walk 3 creeps in the wave. He's about to hit level 7 with 1 more creep wave, unless there's a few denies. Puck, a lot less EXP up on him, considering he just missed that last wave. And the next time he rotates, he has to be very careful, because he's going to be, the Exorcism will be doing a lot of damage in the tower. Solo chose to go for Treads as his first big item. Has the magic stick up, so he's going to use that to keep himself healthy and ensure that he always has a stun. Stun actually flies on Crap Pack. Tether goes out on the Sven, but immediately TP support rotating in. They have to back away, and this is where a point of Nasal Goo is actually quite effective. Paralyzing Cast actually bouncing back and forth. Great play coming out from the Witch Lock being able to land that Paralyzing Cast. One more hit, and Aya's going to take a fall. Solar's actually going to take a fall as well. You can't kill Crappack, especially with the Malediction. One more Nasal Goo. Don't think it'll be enough damage to be the kill off, especially with the Magic Stick, and with the Living Armor on top of that. He actually did the Nature's Guide by accident, so it was a panic Nature's Guise. Maybe it was on cooldown, but while I say that, Death Prophet actually takes a fall, with the Nature's Prophet rotating in to be able to go for a kill attempt on that. So the reason why Nature's Prophet's such a powerful offlane hero is that whenever you're going for an engagement, you always have to assume there's going to be a +1 with the Nature's Prophet coming in with the Sprout. And the Living Armor ensuring that Puck can stay alive during that engagement, so it looks like that's where the Living Armor went. Crappack over in the bottom lane. He now has a point up in Warpath. That's going to make him a lot more difficult to kill. If he's ever left alone against this fan, he can actually do a lot of damage if he runs up with a few Warpath attacks. Gives you a surprising amount of damage. Still a bit surprised he chose to go for the Quelling Blade, but I guess he was assuming he'd be up against a Nature's Prophet. In which case, the Quelling Blade not only helps you CSing, it also means that you can't Sprout Trap you since you just cut your way through. Double damage room being spotted out. Iowok going to be rotating over to the top lane to bottle that up. Despite the death, still is CSing very well, better than the Puck with 10 more last hits, although Puck's got one more deny. Puck doing what he can to recover. Very surprised at the matchup. I guess he wasn't able, like, even if you do dodge the Crypt Swarm, you're still losing out in terms of last hits. Arcane Boots once again, so it looks like Death Prophet's going to be the mech carrier for the team. Puck looks like he's choosing to go for Treads first this time, so playing a bit more safe. Mistimed the phase shift, so he ate the Crypt Swarm to the face. A lot of damage to eat, especially for a squishy hero like a Puck. Phase shift, he had auto attack though, so there we go. Using the Illusory Orb to try to control the lane, since he doesn't want to ever give Death Prophet a creep wave advantage when she could pop Exorcism and try to take the tower. Non-Lon now rotating the tri lane over to the top lane. So it looks like NZ Rain, with the level advantage, he knows that he could probably do quite well against the Bristleback. But that being said, Crappack, with the damage from Warpath as well as the Quelling Blade, will probably be the out-CS the Nature's Prophet at this stage. It'll be interesting to see what build that he goes for. Usually you pick up Bristleback as the offlaner because he's going to pick up your mech. That's because mech gives you a lot more EHP than the Vanguard, and it also gives you that heal for the rest of your team. So if you want to go for these early engagements, you can very well do so. Not a big fan of the Vanguard on the Bristleback, just because it doesn't really give you that much EHP if you compare it to the Mechanism, which costs only a little bit more. Or even if you compare it to a Sange, the only thing that Vanguard really gives you, that none of the other items do, is the damage block. But even then, Bristleback passive is more than enough to keep yourself alive, and much better to stack armor, so you scale better into the later stages of the game. Vanguard's one of those arms that has very limited uses. Iowok doing a lot of damage to Puck with a double damage. Actually could have chosen to go for the Courier there, if you wanted to, but instead chose to go for a few more right clicks than Puck. Puck forced to go Treads this game. Not going for any rush blink dagger like he did the last game, so that's going to delay Puck's blink dagger significantly. It's 950 gold down the drain that he could have spent going towards the blink dagger. Actually uses the Dream Coil to be able to get a kill with the Illusory Orb. Never mind, he backs off as the Invis Room keeps himself alive. They still have vision of where he is. Iowok turns out he actually could get a kill on NZ Rain if he decided to commit for it. But Waning Rift off cooldown available for the Puck, as well as Illusory Orb coming off very shortly, so it'd be a trade.
By the gods, the Dire's bottom tower doesn't
Chronosphere over in the top lane. No Death One, unfortunately, but Malediction as well as Cast. Cast, I'm not too sure the Cast was popped. Stacking the stun a bit. But the point up in the Voodoo Restoration, trying to do a bit of a heal. Unfortunately, Understudy walks right into the Illusory Orb and dies. So they traded Io for a Faceless Void in exchange for also blowing out the Chronosphere. Puck doesn't have enough for an Illusory Orb, so Death Prophet actually pops the Exorcism as well. Very, very costly plays coming out from TDT. They need to get either a kill or to try to pressure the tower off the back of this, because otherwise they're not going to accomplish anything.
By the gods, the Dire's bottom tower doesn't even have arms to defend itself.
Not too sure what that lull was for. I guess, oh, there's some kind of strange bug over my end. Looks like Iowok's going to eat a Stormbolt to the face. Exorcism's still up, but it's a level 1 Exorcism. He actually chose to go for a point over into Silence. Puck bottles have a double damage rune. Slowly rotating over to the mid lane. That's an Exorcism completely wasted for nothing. Over in the bottom lane, Bristleback picks up his treads. He knows that by the time he rotated the game, the gank would be over, since Bristleback relies on sustained damage in long drawn-out fights to be able to constantly keep stacking the Cool Spray. So he's going to sit there in the bottom lane, continue to do his thing, try to get his farm, try to shut down the Nature's Prophet, who still doesn't have Wrath of Nature yet. So while his first teleportation gank was successful, the second one wasn't so, almost cost him his life. Bit of miscommunication happening in the top lane with TDT as they stack the Paralyzing Cast for no reason within the Chronosphere. Paralyzing Cast does do a small amount of damage, but it's not the reason why you want to do it, especially when they're clumped up like that. Could have ensured that you got at least another kill. I Walk gonna eat the stun to the face. I guess that's actually the power of the Soul Ring. I didn't actually think about that before. When you activate the Soul Ring, it provides the mana to the hero that you tether, so it's giving Sven constant mana. And the Soul Ring regeneration is enough to ensure that IO never gets too low. So good awareness coming up from Lucky Shots. I guess you learn something new every day. Solo will be interesting to see what item he chooses to go for first. Another quick pause coming out. As there's a quick pause. Puck 1,000 gold off his Blink Dagger, so we'll probably be seeing a 14-15 minute Blink Dagger. At least he's able to pick up a kill or a tower in the next few minutes. 2,500 EXP lead in favor of TTT. 1,500 gold lead. So even though they've got 1 kill advantage, the fact that they've lost in terms of CS, the fact that they're offlaner compared, well, even though Crapback has died once, he's recovered very nicely in terms of CS, as opposed to NZ Rain. Even though he got a kill, he hasn't recovered that well in terms of last hits. And now left 1v1 up against the Bristleback, he actually has to be fairly careful. Bristleback with the Quelling Blade and with the Warpath stacks will clearly outlast hit him and be able to out-deny him. And if he ever gets a bit too cocky and finds himself a bit too far forward without the Sprout, he can go down. Or even if he gets enough Cool Spray stacks on him, he could Cool Spray him through the Sprout and kill him. Especially since he's got the Quelling Blade to cut through. So Nature's Prophet has to be a bit careful. Still choosing to go for the Bulldog build, so he knows that he wants to be as active as quickly as possible. Puck almost going to have a level 4 Waning Rift. This could provide a huge amount of presence in the next gank, having that 3-second AoE silence. In terms of net worth, you see that the Faceless Void as well as the Death Prophet are leading the scoreboard. Death Prophet looks like she's on mech duty once again, so it'll be interesting to see what Bristleback chooses to go for. He could actually choose to go for something like a Sange as his first big item, or even an Armlet Medigian. Armlet's a very powerful item on the Bristleback, just because he actually hits very hard. It gives him a lot of survivability, and it forces you to kind of have to focus him to deal with him, since otherwise if you ignore him, he'll rack up a lot of damage in your support heroes and be able to kill them. Whereas if you focus them, he can turn around, Armlet Talk to keep himself alive, utilize the stick. If there's a fast mech out, he can use the mech, then re-pop his armlet and try and go in for another engagement. Choosing to max out Nasal Goo over the Bristleback, so he's playing very aggressively. The only reason why you go for more points than Nasal Goo is because of the negative armor, so if you build an aggressive item on top of that, such as an armlet, you could probably 3-shot the support heroes. Looks like the standard's having issues going on. Void. So they're just going to sort out the communication issues. Wisp, he's going to be the one that wants to build a mech for his team. But if he's unable to get so long as you're able to build a mech on the team with a Wisp, you're able to make so much more use of it than the other team, since not only does mech heal the Wisp and the target, the tether target also receives the bonus heal from the tether, so it's essentially a 500-600 HP heal when you tether a target such as a Sven, who's going to be going balls deep into these engagements. Choosing to max out Warp Cry as a secondary ability. Good recognition coming up from him. Warcry gives you a huge amount of armor, which mitigates Sven's biggest weakness, which is his lack of armor as well as his low mobility. So while that happens over into the bottom lane, NZ Rain can continue to find what farm he can, TP into these ganks. He's got Wrath of Nature available to him now, but in terms of levels, he's a lot lower level than he'd like to be. Usually around this time you want to see a Nature's Prophet at level 7. But the EXP lead is providing a huge amount of advantage, since Bristleback's been giving a lot more solo EXP than the Nature's Prophet. So while they are ahead in kills, they're losing in terms of net worth, and that could be the critical factor. They actually chose to go for Drummond's Endurance first. Iwalk dodges the Illusory Orb. He's going to pop the Drinkwell. Unfortunately, that's going to be his death. Support rotates in a bit too late. So even though the Illusory Orb missed, they were still able to get the kill with NZ Rain TPing in, but that means that Bristleback, he's got free farm in the bottom lane. Actually chose to go for a Planeswalker's Cloak. He could be going towards Pipe of Insight as his first big item. And there is a fair amount of magic damage coming out, since the Pipe of Insight mitigates a good chunk of Puck's burst damage, as well as the Wrath of Nature and the Stormbolt. But that being said, would be much better to see the Bristleback going for something a bit more aggressive. Just because the Hooded Defiant on the Bristleback doesn't really give you all too much. It stacks pretty badly with the Bristleback passive. And Bristleback, if you just build him as a tanky hero, he's not. The enemy team can simply ignore him. You want to give them a reason to have to focus him. A reason for them to have to commit valuable resources to being able to kill him. So that's why when you're playing a Bristleback, you usually want to build aggressive items on him, depending on the game, of course. But in a situation like this, when he's been giving a lot of free farm, there's a lot of squishy supports on the enemy team, such as the Wisp that could die very quickly to the Bristleback, or even Nature's Prophet or the Puck if they call out without their escape mechs. Bristleback can easily go to town on them. If he went for a much more aggressive build, could be doing a lot of work. Especially considering the fact that he's choosing to max out the nasal goo as well. Usually if you go for more of a utility based build, you want to keep yourself alive and therefore be a threat by having high value items such as the mechanism and the Hood of Defiance up on you, and the Pipe of Insight. Trailing over in the top lane, Sven nowhere near as many last hits as the Faceless Void. He's been a lot more uncontested, but even then a lot more denies. He's been doing the best he can to try to deprive the enemy laners of experience. Faceless Void has a hand of mines, Blink Dagger now up. So with that kill, he's able to get it a minute earlier than I'd like. Non-long going to be eating a force boy the overgrowth. Actually, God's Wrath, God's Strength has been popped. Solo runs forward, he's going to get a stun over on Crapback, especially with NZ Rain coming up the surprise. He's going to cut his way through the trees, never mind, he's got the Quelling Blade, why isn't he using it? Decides instead to go into the Ancient Apparition. Crapback's now also going to be taking a fall. And that's a Tier 1 tower off the back of that. Relocate still not up, but Wisp doing a lot of work with the tether as well as the constant soul ring, ensuring that Sven always has enough mana for his Stormbolt. It looks like Sven's going to be going for the Mask of Menace, which is a very risky pickup, especially against a team with a Death Prophet as well as a team with an Ancient Apparition. Pardon me, just because if Ancient Apparition catches you out with the Ice Path, well, instead that 2-man black Chronosphere actually catches out before they run back into it. That could be a complete wipe for their team. Lucky Shot's going to be taken forward with the Malefice damage. Going to finish him off. Solo throws out great stun blocking out 3. Actually, Puck goes in with a great Waning Rift into Illusory Orb. He wishes he had the Dream Core for that fight. Well, so then NZ Rain takes a fall. Understudy standing his ground. He knows that he can out-man-fight Solo, and he shows it off. Especially with the higher attacks with a time lock, as well as the extra point up in the backtrack. Puck is able to snipe off Witch Lock in the background. He could be trading his life for this. Never mind. Illusory Ethereal jumps himself to safety. He's got Blink off cooldown very shortly. And he's able to regen up with a bottle. Good play coming off the Puck, at least going for a kill. Punishing him a bit more, but the Understudy standing his ground. So the drawback of picking up a Sven, especially a Sven that's decided to go for a Mask of Madness this early on. Usually, in terms of a cost efficiency, picking up an Armlet is actually very powerful on Sven, since his God Strength is based off his base attack, and his base attack is improved by your primary stat, which is Strength. Also, the HP gain you get from it looks like NZ Rain's having a bit of a few issues over on his end. So against an Ancient Apparition, you usually want to completely forego any kind of lifesteal, because you know that if he's on point with the Ice Blast, you can completely negate it, so you don't want to rely too much on any kind of lifesteal. At the same time, Sven, since he's such a slow hero and so easy to kite, especially against a hero like a Death Prophet who has massive amounts of movement speed from the Witchcraft, and non-Lonsane communication fail as all 4 of his teammates decided to jump on into the Chronosphere. They were standing outside. In fact, Sven has Stormbolt ready and raring to go. He could have thrown it out, or at least hung around, waited for them to overcommit a bit further. They could have all retreated and just left their teammate to his fate. It's a 5-position Treant Protector. It's not the end of the world if he dies. But over in the mid lane, looks like Death Prophet continue to farm. Got enough to finish the Buckler now, so getting a lot closer to never mind, almost got enough to finish her Mechanism with 1 more creep, as well as a bit of passive gold ticking in. She's going to walk in, Crypt Swarm down the wave, actually start pressuring the Tier 1 tower mid. They haven't been able to take any towers, and you can attribute that to the fact that they can't do any chip damage, since Treant Protector will heal it up with living armor. Treant Protector's been absolutely on point. Early Magic 6 up on all their core heroes, really showing off, doing a lot of work, ensures they always have mana to throw out a few last ditch spells. The biggest drawback of the Bristleback. That's another reason why you want to build them aggressively. If you build them too passively, you're only feeding the enemy team Magic Stick charges. You're not going to accomplish all too much. Looks like he's going for the Hood of Defiance, so probably going to be the Pipe carrier for his team. The biggest disadvantage with Pipe is it's an item that you have to activate before you do anything. So the only analogy I could really think of is if you think of a Pipe as a condom and the mech as the plan B pill. You have to put on the condom before you get down and dirty, whereas the mech, once the deed's done, you can still pop it halfway through. You can do whatever you can to heal back the HP. The Pipe won't give you any HP that you lose, so if you pop the Pipe halfway during engagement, they're throwing out all their spells, it's not going to do anything. So it means that you usually want to pick up a Pipe on the hero that's doing the initiating, so that's why Pipe used to be such a core pickup in the Beastmaster, who can initiate with Roar, or in the Clockwork Goblin, who could pop the Pipe event on his team, and then initiate. Or the only other reason why you want to pick up a Pipe is when you're trying to break high ground against a team that has a lot of magic damage, such as a team with a Coddle or a Lina. You pop the Pipe of Insight on the Creep Wave, so the Creep Wave could survive that salvo of spells, so they can start sieging the tower. But otherwise, Pipe of Insight, not really the best way to spend your gold. Dreamcoil being committed for this. The Understudy is going to be very careful. He actually backtracks a lot of that damage. It's still going to take a fall. 4-man Ancient Apparition Ice Blast. They actually decide to fight with us with the Death Wall, doing so much work. The Malediction might actually be never mind, no Malediction, but something to die to the shadow damage. Witch Dog is more than happy to trade his life for that. Non-long, fleeing for his life, frozen, but he's got the Nature's Guards up, never mind. Puck decides to dive back in. Once again, they're going for great lengths to be able to keep their Treant Protector alive. Good Juke coming up from lucky shots, but it's only going to delay his death. There's no creep for him to be able to tether to. And non-long, he simply TP's out. The rest of his teammates are yelling, earn this. And there's a mech up on the Death Prophet. Gonna have Exorcism up in a few seconds. Doesn't have enough mana, but can still at least pressure the Tower 1 tower.
Fortification in place.
An immediate response coming out from Solo. They want to fight over in the mid lane, even though they don't have the majority of the team fight spells. They don't have the Overgrowth, they don't have the Dream Coil, they don't have God Strength. Bit surprising they're choosing to do this. But they're playing very safe, they're playing very passive. They decide to back away. There's still a living armor to keep account of, especially if you decide to dive against a tower. And the entire team fight, and the entire engagement, sorry, one off the back of the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast, catching out 4. If he's able to land a few more of those throughout the course of the game, he could single-handedly determine how these team fights go. Since Sven, if he's going for that Mask of Man, it's going to be very squishy. If he goes for the Helm of the Dominator, he doesn't attack fast enough or necessarily do enough damage for it to be worthwhile, especially with the fact that Ancient Apparition Ice Blast is going to mitigate the healing factor from the Helm of the Dominator. Usually in the Helm, you only build Helm of the Dominator if you either do enough damage that and attack quickly enough that your lifesteal back all the HP that you lose in the one-on-one situation. So for instance, a Drow Ranger wants to go for Helm of the Dominator because with marksmanship, she hits incredibly hard, or a Huskar before the Berserker's Blood is reworked, back when it used to give you damage, you'd build a Helm of Dominator because it made you impossible to kill. The other side actually jukes out the Dream Coil, drops a 3-man Chronosphere, ensures that the Death Prophet can get the Exorcism off as well as the Death Ward, and that's the power of TDT's team fight, all built off the back of that Chronosphere. Crap back on me eating that stun to the face. Solo pops his God Strength, but he's got a lot of stacks up on him. He's going to be very careful at the moment. And the understudy continue to go to town. He knows they can outman him, especially with the Death Prophet hanging around in the background. Overcharge from Wisp doing everything that he can, but the cask punishing him. Actually, the understudy's got to be a bit too careful now. He's popped his own Mask of Madness. Sven still doesn't even have his Mask of Madness. He's used up all his drum charges. This is the issue that I have with Sven. If you wanted a hero to carry hard, you might as well just pick a Luna, you might as well pick a Morphling. If you want a hero that can fight early on, you might as well pick someone like a Weaver. You can go for these early engagements if you have the right setup for it. You might as well even pick up a Phantom Assassin. No point in half-assing it with a hero that's mediocre at a lot of things and needs a specific setup to be effective. Overgrowth only catches 1. Death Prophet lands the Silence over and Puck, preventing the Dream Coil as well as the Waning Rift of the Illusory Orb. Unfortunately, Dream Coil's on cooldown. Illusory Orb completely whips as well. Nature's Prophet TPing in for this, but he starts to cancel it. They don't want to commit too far. Looks like I'm getting a few lag spikes on my end. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy. Crap Pack. 4 stacks of goo up. It's a lot of armor being reduced, but living armor trying to keep himself alive. Crap Pack. Mech up on him. He can turn around and actually go for a kill over a non-long. They need sentries if they want to do this though, since Nature's Guys once again keep himself alive. A blind Crypt Swarm will be to finish him off. Witch Doctor fleeing for his life. Oh, almost gets called out with the Stormbolt. With the haste ring, he's running around trying to do the best that he can. He's going to eat a Stormbolt to the face from the Sven. Never mind, it was on cooldown. Witch Doctor running around drawing fire. Finally takes a fall, but he's able to bring Sven down with him. And able to completely walk over the enemy team once again. Puck goes in for the assassin. He gets a double kill off the back of it. That's a lot of gold going his way as well as experience. Good play coming out from Puck, at least making sure that they trade kills. Non-long continuing to group up in the mid lane. No sentry's been bought from them. Never mind, there was a sentry committed, but wasn't able to catch him out. Choosing to go for more points over the Nature's Guide as opposed to the Leech Seed. Very surprising build coming up from him. But hey, if it works, it is. I don't suppose I could really blame you. Mask of Madness now picked up on Sven, so he's ready to drop Mama Spaghetti. Biggest drawback to this, of course, once again, is not only the if Death Prophet has Exorcism up, you're dead. If Faceless Void corners you, you're dead. If you get caught in the Ice Blast, you're dead. There's so much setup you need for Sven to really be effective as a hard carry. That's the reason why I feel like you might as well pick somebody else. It's a lot easier, it's less like chances of it going wrong. It's a lot more reliable. The biggest advantage of Sven compared to those other carries, I suppose, is the fact that if you've got the right aggressive tri-lane, you can get a lot of kills very quickly, and you can take a lot of towers at the back of that. Similar to how Drow Ranger, if she gets off to a good start, you could just knock down every single Tower 1 tower the enemy team has, because once you get a point up in the marksmanship, you do so much DPS. If you have the rest of your team ready to provide you support, if you group up as 5, create a lot of space, and take a lot of map control away from the enemy team. Looks like Yule Scepter once again for the Death Prophet's essentially cornered this game, just because there's only a 1 melee right click on the enemy team. There's also the Nature's Prophet, but right now he's not going to become dangerous until he gets a lot more farm. Especially since he chosen to go for the Bulldog build. The biggest drawback to the Bulldog build is it ensures that your team does well in the early game. If your team does not do well, you don't have any kind of comeback mechanic at all. And usually if Nature's Prophet, if everything is going to shit and you've got a Midas, you hang back, split push, find your farm that way, try to get a level advantage so you've got that high level Wrath of Nature, try to pick up a big item such as a Sheep Stick, which is an Orchdom level, and such as even a Desolator. Two-man Dream Coil, but unfortunately he's completely on his own. Real Kankak comes in, instantly eats the Malefice, as well as the Ice Blast. Solo takes so much damage. Wicktook is still alive in the back of this. He's eventually going to die. Never mind. Yeah, he takes a fall in the end. NZ Rain doing a lot of work with the Maelstrom. Smoke being popped to Panic Smoke once again. But the Exorcism doing so much work in these engagements, especially with the negative armor coming out. Treant Protector running in to try to save his body, but Puck should be okay. Never mind. No blink tag up on him. Ultra kill actually could be a rampage if they decide to commit for this. Yeah, it's going to be a rampage. Fantastic plays coming out from iWalk. All you have to do is press R, occasionally throw out a Q and walk around in the team fight. Let the enemy team run up to you and break themselves against the spirits. No idea what the hell SSCT were thinking, committing to that engagement. The instant Exorcism drops, especially level 2 Exorcism with a maxed out Witchcraft, you run the hell the other way. You do not commit into that engagement. You back away, wait for Exorcism to wear off, then you try to take a fight. So they chose to go in one by one, which is the main reason why they fell apart. Puck went in, he got a pretty good Dream Coil Waning Rift initiation. Then